It's at this time that I would invite Laura Stewart and Peter Loiselle to the stage, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Laura Stewart, and I'm a senior at Brewer High School. I'm currently a member of the field hockey, swim, and softball teams, and also a co-chairsperson of SAC. It gives me great pleasure to tell you about Hall of Fame inductee Suzanne Loiselle. Suzanne, also known as Susie Loiselle, class of 1988, was an elite record-holding swimmer, dominating the 100-yard breaststroke event in all 4 years of her career. At the Penobscot Valley Conference Swim Championship, she was a 3-time PVC champion and a 2-time state champion. Dr. Loiselle broke the school record in the 100-yard breaststroke numerous times over her high school career. Her school record time was a 1:11.96, and it stood for 7 years. During her junior season, she was also a member of the 200-yard medley relay that set a school record. This record stood for 20 years. Loiselle's accomplishments in the pool contributed heavily to Brewer's runner-up finish in 3 out of her 4 PVC championships. She served as a team captain her senior year and was named to the Maine All-Star Swim Team twice. She also made the National Interscholastic Swim Coaches Association Top 10 list 3 times. Dr. Loiselle's exceptional leadership skills and work ethic extended beyond the pool and into the classroom. She was named Maine All-Academic Swim Team her senior year and was also the president of Key Club Beowulf her senior year, as well as active in several other clubs and organizations, including B Club, Interclub Council, and the National Honor Society. She was the recipient of the prestigious National Principals Award and the Bausch and Lomb Science Award, as well as the DAR Citizenship Award. Graduating at the top of her class, she was also valedictorian. Dr. Loiselle continued her education and swimming career at Cornell University in Ithaca, New York, competing for the Big Red Squad. She was a member of the Red Key Society, lettering in all 4 years. Presently, she is practicing as a pediatrician in New York City. At this time, I'm honored to introduce Peter Loiselle to present his sister, Suzanne Loiselle, for the induction into the Brewer Athletic Hall of Fame.
Wow, Susie, I didn't think you were that prolific of a swimmer, but that's probably because you're my sister, and you've been doing it since you were 6 years old, and I've been following you the whole time. When Susie asked me to do the introductory speech, I considered yelling like I did when she was swimming, but I was concerned with all the swimmers in the audience, like Mike Blanchard and John Williams and my brother Dan and Susie. They'd all hop up and start looking for a starting box, and then I came to the realization it's probably not a good idea in this setting. I could also speak to her dedication to training, but most student athletes, especially the successful ones, are dedicated to the long nights of practice, healthier eating habits, though they are still teenagers and it's really not that healthy, but healthier eating habits. Always trying to find time for their academics. With all those things, there were 2 things that really stood out about Suzanne, the student athlete. First was her leadership and caring of others. The thing that I will always remember about Suzanne's senior year going into the state championship weekend. As was tradition, the captains held spaghetti feed at one of their houses. In this case, it was the Loiselle household. Friday morning of the planned event, feed, rally, whatever you wanted to call it at that point, our grandfather passed. Susie didn't want anyone to know. Though she did tell Coach Babcock because she didn't want anyone worrying about her, but stay focused on the upcoming championship swim meet. So everything went off normal, now normal with a bunch of high school girls full of energy following several weeks of taper is a whole different definition of what many of us might consider normal. But things went off normal. Championship Saturday, and everyone was asking where my mom was. And all Suzanne would say is she's with Pepe because he wasn't feeling well. I'm not sure how many people asked her, but she never let on the hurt and sorrow she was feeling. Instead, she was there for her teammates to make sure they were mentally and physically prepared for her race, and making sure that she was mentally prepared for her race. A race she won by the length of her fingernails. O was the one for dramatics. It was an emotional afternoon. I'll never forget her telling me it was the first time her grandfather got to see her race. In the end, it wasn't about her, it was about the team. Something can often be forgotten in an individual sport. The second thing that comes to mind when considering Susie's accomplishment is her academic success. She was a true definition of a student athlete, even with the many hours of training during odd times because they were all always fighting for pool time. Susie always managed to find time to be a student first, graduating at the top of her class and continuing through college and medical school with that same determination. Susie, congratulations on your accomplishments, both in the pool and academics.
First, I'd like to thank the Cora Varney family for their generous sponsorship of the Brewer High School Athletic Hall of Fame. To the committee whose dedication has made this experience so special, and especially to Eileen Williams, who's worked so hard to make me look good, and to the student athletes who have given their time to execute this phenomenal ceremony. My remarks today are mostly directed at you. An individual sport like swimming is humbling because one's failures are individual. A slow start, a sloppy turn, taking the race out too fast or too slow. These are all things that really has to be owned by the swimmer in the pool. The clock does not lie. Successes, on the other hand, are not only about the individual. Yes, I had to hit the turn just right, hold the streamline off the walls until my muscles burned and my lungs screamed, make sure I left enough gas in the tank to finish hard. But in order to be in the position to win, I needed support. I needed the support from our coach, our team, and from my family. I say our coach because Coach Tim Babcock was a coach to all of us, not just the best of us. He's had several swimmers inducted already, but for each one of us, there are hundreds more he coached just as diligently and with the same love, passion, and dedication. He was a friend and a mentor to all of his swimmers through his decades as our coach. And I thank you, Coach, for the support I took for granted back then, and for the life lessons in dealing with bad days and learning from failure. Thank you for being a big part of what made me a winner in the pool and out of it. Though the racing part of swimming is pretty individual, the training thankfully is not, because it's a bit of a slog. Long practices, long bus rides, long meets. Having peers like Hall of Fame members Jeff Lynn, John Williams, Kim Dunn, Belinda Perry, and my fellow inductee Mike Blanchard, having them blowing me away in practice was inspiring, and having an entire team on their feet screaming for one person in the pool is what makes swimming special. Splitting a dozen donuts with John and Jeff in the 15-minute commute to practice was probably not the smartest thing we did, but it remains one of my favorite memories. I'm blessed in this life to have been born into what I think is the very best family. Pete wasn't just my biggest fan, he was my loudest. My mom must have driven tens of thousands of miles back and forth from Eddington, mostly on icy roads in the dark. My accountant dad, who often worked 100-hour weeks during tax season, took entire days off to attend and announce swim meets. As the youngest, I was always following in somebody else's footsteps, so I will take a moment now to curse all 4 of my older siblings. Yes, I'm calling you old, all of you, for setting so many high bars in our household that I had no idea that pushing hard was a choice. I simply didn't know any better, because you all made it look so easy. This is an important note to you student athletes in the audience today, over there. Some of you have fantastic family support like I do. You know who you are. But look around you for your teammates who do not. They're usually hiding in plain sight. Bring them into your own family and be a family to them. Melvin and Linda Williams, Phil and Mary Ellen McTighe, Coach Babcock. Every one of these people were my family and support if I ever needed them. It wasn't even something I had to think about or ask for. I owe them a debt of deepest gratitude. Swimming was the one place I always felt I belonged, where I felt I was supposed to be. And swimming was and is a big part of who I am. There are those things in your life that if you choose to go all in like I did with swimming, they become a fabric, part of the fabric of who you are. And in a very healthy, positive way. I stopped swimming regularly when I went to medical school and stepped away from it for many years. I finished school, completed my residency, met and married my husband Rick, and found other ways to stay fit. In 2008, I was in a remote smoky bar in rural Alaska, when the Summer Olympics were on TV, and I was instantly transported back to high school and college days. My whole body froze when the referee said, "Swimmers, take your marks." And I jumped a bit at the buzzer as though my body knew to explode off the blocks. Back in New York after the trip, Rick suggested that we go out for a drink and instead dragged me to our local Y. One sniff of the chlorine and I was hooked. I've been back in the pool most days a week ever since. Swimming is who I am. It's my refuge from stress. It's my mood stabilizer, probably my marriage therapy. It makes my hair frizz, it dries out my skin, it sculpts my body. I occasionally, well, more than occasionally, smell like chlorine. And I bear the scars of shoulder surgery, which, by the way, was performed by a swimmer. My staff and my colleagues, and even most of my patients, know that I disappear for an hour most mornings, and texts and calls go unanswered. I'm not Dr. Loiselle when I wear my suit and cap. I swim at the local Y with a group that includes people from all over the world, ages 50 to 88. And we're a team. We athletes, those students in this audience today, and my fellow inductees get to be a part of a team for life, like a secret club with a special handshake. Finally, as a pediatrician, I can't help but lecture you student athletes in the audience. I want to be careful to emphasize student athletes because let's face it, you can't be a high school athlete if you're not in high school, and that means work, and a lot of work. There's a reason colleges and future employers look at athletes differently, and it's not because being good in biology class being a fast swimmer makes me better in biology class. It's because to be able to excel in the classroom and in the pool, you have to work harder and smarter than your non-athlete peers. These qualities are the qualities that breed success in all aspects of life. You have to be better at time management. You have to say no to things that don't figure into your goals, whether it's no to something benign and fun like a late night at the movies when you've got an early practice in the morning, or no to eating 4 donuts in 15 minutes. Or worse, no to a drink or a vape. You have to have more self-control, more discipline, more grit. And you have to be more aware of consequences. Hello, vomiting up the 4 donuts if Coach Babcock called for sprints that day. Let's acknowledge that there will be failures. Though we are celebrating our successes today, every one of us up here has more failures than we care to remember. If you craft yourself into the right kind of student athlete, you, along with your coaches, teammates, and families, will learn to use those failures as fuel for future successes. It's very messy work, but a fantastic journey, and success is a worthy destination. I wish you joy and passion in your own journey, and I thank you sincerely for giving me the honor of welcoming me home today.